So I got to watch that Sonic movie before the 8th of April. Haha, we get it earlier than you, America. Haha. I bet you're all really proper cross that you can't watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on April Fool's Day. It must burn. Anyway, the film itself was... well, it was okay. I'm in a weird position here because Sonic was a big part of my childhood, which I'm aware makes me sound like the biggest loser virgin nerd to ever be, but when I was younger, I wanted to be Sonic the Hedgehog. I played every game, watched every show, I just couldn't get enough of the character. This is an obsession that has obviously calmed down significantly as I got older, but I'll always have some sort of underlying love for the character because of the memories that the game's brought me. The reason I bring this up is because the movie is very fan-service-y, and to be frank, and I'm very embarrassed to say this, I adored every second of this film, but I don't want to be misconstrued. This is not, even in the slightest, at all, a great film. There is so much wrong with it, but we'll start off with the positives. I think that what I appreciate the most about this movie is that you can tell the team actually cares about the property, because most of the time with these video game or children's book live-action adaptations, the team is just producing a massively potent 90 minutes of nostalgia bait and lazy writing with as little money spent as possible to make as much profit as possible. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 actually has soul, and the directors, writers, and animators seem to really care about how audiences respond, clearly taking the criticism from the last film and using it to improve upon this one. The standout by far was Idris Elba as Knuckles, because he really kills his role. His character was very fun to watch, and even though I have my reservations about Jim Carrey as a person, there's no denying that he can act like there's no tomorrow, even if I think he's a little too eccentric at points. The CGI was pretty great and it never got distracting at all. The human characters that no one cares about were largely tossed to the side in favor of the ones that we actually wanted to see, which immediately makes this film significantly stronger than its predecessor. The action scenes were surprisingly fun and were definitely the most interestingly shot parts of the film. The characters actually go through an amount of development, like there's actually like character arcs and developments that lead to people being wiser at the end than they were at the start. If you're a Sonic fan, then there is so much fan service that you'll basically be creaming yourself the entire time. The third act in particular I would call genuinely good, biases aside. I think that for a large portion of this film, what you see is what you get. There's a lot of cheese and corn and power of friendship, but I mean, it's a movie about fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's also probably the biggest downside of the film. Sonic himself isn't that interesting of a character. Something that quickly became apparent was that Ben Schwartz does a really unimpressive job with the titular character, because there is so little emotion in his voice acting that it gets super distracting at points. The jokes also fall flat like 80% of the time. There's a lot of haha reference humor, there's a lot of we almost said a swear word, but we didn't say the entire word, so there's one for the adults in the audience kind of humor, but it's just not done very well. Eggman does the floss. They have the fucking flosses in the movie again. Is that a spoiler? Fuck it, I don't know. Even though the human characters aren't in the film as much as the last one, they're still in it enough to hurt it, because they are very uninteresting, but it's not too distracting until like the end of the second act, where there's just like the weirdest, overly long scene of people, many of which we've only known for like 5 minutes, just doing stuff that I guess was important to the story. It was without a doubt the worst part of the film, but I couldn't help but laugh at just how fucking awful and ridiculous it was. The first act was probably the low point of the film. The writing is never really that great, but it's certainly at its laziest at the start when it tries to get all the character arcs and everything started up and set up to develop. The pacing was a lot worse than the first film, but I prefer the weirder, more unorganized style of storytelling in this one to the boring, monotonous presentation of the first one, even if it is technically worse, though that might just be personal preference. Perhaps it would have been a little better if they shaved like 10 minutes off the runtime, because there was also a really weird out-of-place scene with Sonic and Tails near the start of the film. You'll definitely know what I'm talking about if you've seen or are going to see the movie. There are a lot of dumb decisions made by certain characters, and also a few moments where strong characters are made weaker or vice versa simply to serve the scene. Fundamentally, I think it's as simple as, if you like Sonic, you'll like the film, and if you don't, then you won't. That's all there is to it. I mean, what do you want from me? I personally will probably forget about this film when this video comes out and never think about it again, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit excited for the sequel. I'm giving this movie an I don't fucking know or care out of 10. 5, I get. Yeah, that sounds about right. 5 out of 10, baby. What was shit about Sonic the Hedgehog 2's ending?
Because Sonic just somehow is now best friends with Knuckles after they try to fucking murder each other.
Yeah?
Like legit, he threw him into the ground and went, Do you think I need your power? But then at the end, he's like, nah, I love you. Come on. Our whole family for like the last 100 years were fighting over a gem.
Well, because
but now you're my best friend.
Because Sonic saved him when he was
Nah,
drowning.
it's shit.
Sonic saved him when he was
It's
drowning.
shit.
What do you mean?
It's shit.
Sonic saved him, Lucas.
Shit.
Lucas.
And where does machine come from? He just got trains and trucks and he made a big machine.
Yeah, because he has the power of the Master Emerald,
I don't
Lucas.
In what games did that happen? He just grabs the truck and bang, machine. Eggman machine.